Welcome to Mortal Kombat Movie Night. This evening we're going to be looking at the story mode for Mortal Kombat 9. Its story is basically a remake of Mortal Kombat 1, 2 and 3's story, but squished into one vaguely cohesive experience which some of you might find confounding. I, for one, had no idea Mortal Kombat 1, 2 or 3 even had a story. Going back to play it, it didn't really seem that deep at the time. I mean, look at this. It's just a bunch of people fighting one another for no reason, so the fact there's even a story mode in Mortal Kombat 9 is crazy to me, not to mention a 4-hour story with cutscenes. If I hadn't already witnessed it, I'd imagine every single pre-fight cutscene was just this.
Guys wanna fight?
Thing is, Mortal Kombat 9 is also my favourite Mortal Kombat game, which is hard to explain to people, let alone fans, because to most people the fighting is exactly the same in the other games, and thanks to the later characters' redesigns, there's two giant reasons on every female character's chest as to why the game was so popular with teenage boys. The problem is, I like tag ladder mode, and I was really sad when it was removed from the other games because it's fantastic and really fun for couch co-op, but the second anyone looks at the screenshots they're going to see any one of the female characters with beach balls assets, and suddenly it's really hard for me to defend the game. Yeah, it's good, but it's also as anatomically accurate as most people's fursonas. So the game starts with a cutscene of Raiden getting whipped in his goth outfit by Shao Kahn, where it's implied that Raiden meets his end. He uses his last bit of strength to seemingly send a message back in time to his former self, but all he really says is he must win, which is pretty much useless. Most of the game is just Raiden trying to fix the timeline to prevent his death, his goth phase, and Shao Kahn from becoming the ruler of everything. So now the real game begins, and it begins with Johnny Cage, who's dressed like a lounge singer in a 70s cocktail bar, and his hair reminds me of dirt brown AstroTurf. Seriously, when the camera zooms in on his hair, it's uniformly cut. His barber must be a dot matrix printer or something. Johnny Cage is by far one of my favourite characters to play as, and he's one of the easiest to master. But as far as I could tell, it's never really explained why Johnny Cage is even here. Everyone else besides Sonya or Jax is here to defend Earthrealm or represent their respective worlds, but Johnny Cage is here because he thinks there's a trophy? He only really states that he wants the belt, but I'd like to imagine his agent has just had enough of him and wants to get him out of his hair. After he beats Reptile and Baraka, which at this point in the game are basically just glorified punching bags, Raiden comes over and just unloads all of this Earthrealm fate of the world bullshit onto him, which Johnny Cage thinks is adorable, and leaves Raiden to it since he's more interested in chasing after Sonya for a game of volleyball since she's already got the equipment.
There is no island.
I'm standing on it. Just lock onto my wrist comm.
Understood. Current status.
Sonya is supposed to be a Special Forces military operative hunting after the famous fugitive Kano, but is very subtly disguised as a blow-up doll. I promise I'll stop making these jokes, but it's so ridiculous how she's been redesigned in the game. It's not hard to see the target demographic they were aiming for when they modeled her, and it really hurts who she's meant to be as a character. Sonya is probably the most out of her depth besides Johnny Cage, who just rolls with it, in this frankly otherworld bullshit. She only came here to rescue Jax, who I think was also after Kano, and she sees a giant reptile boy, Blades Mackenzie, and Shang Tsung blows up a helicopter with fireballs he produces from his hands in the first few hours. This is a lot to take on. Johnny Cage ends up fighting her because his pervy advances are finally pushing her too far, and he wins because this is his chapter. The game had a brain fart here and Johnny just is grooving around while Sonya lays face down in the dirt for a few seconds before the cutscene continues, which was awkwardly hilarious. Johnny Cage apologizes to her but is thrown off a bridge by Kano, who plans on killing her after finding her weakened from her bout with Johnny Cage. However, Johnny Cage returns to kick his ass and it's on to Sonya's chapter.
Step away from the lady. Fans think my moves are all wirework and special effects. Truth is, I am the special effects.
Round 1, fight!
Sonya is a great character to play as, and I often feel as though I'm not utilizing her moves at all, considering how many she seems to have. The second you get to play as her, she immediately goes after Jax. After sneaking into the prison, she fights Sub-Zero because she's as subtle as an air horn going off in a library and is found instantly by Shang Tsung, who thinks she needs to fight someone. Then she fights Raiden, who, for the legendary God of Thunder, gets spanked pretty hard by Sonya. It's always kind of confusing when you think that essentially, canonically, every character is as strong as every other character because they all fight each other at the same point, and whatever character you're playing as is, for that chapter alone, the strongest character in the game. Despite receiving quite the thrashing, Raiden helps her by causing a distraction which allows her to free Jax. She's then assaulted by 2 out of the 3 of the Charlie's Angels, Kitana and Jade. These 2 are really fun to fight and pretty fun to play as too. Finally, she gets the opportunity to beat the tar out of Kano, and afterwards Raiden enlists Sonya and Jax to aid his cause, and at that point they've seen enough supernatural junk to just believe him. They all walk off holding hands, and suddenly we're playing as Scorpion. Scorpion feels really awkward, and I never really got into playing as him in this game. I did, however, master the flame move, which was a lot of fun to use. The difficulty is still in baby easy mode this early into the game, and using the same move over and over again is totally feasible and a very funny and cool thing to do, since the AI won't send you hateful messages over Xbox Live for being a cheap piece of shit.
Hey, you're just mad because I'll be able to do something with my fucking guitar in hands that you'll never be able to achieve in your entire life, kid. So yeah, you're gay.
There is nobody angrier than Scorpion in this whole game. He's basically just rage in a yellow suit. And even though his backstory is explained in this frankly beautiful cutscene, he still ends up feeling a very shallow character in a group of already shallow characters. He hates Sub-Zero because he thinks Sub-Zero murdered his family. He's also dead, which is a pretty good reason to be bitter, so at least it's not misplaced rage. After one of the fights, Raiden tells him that he'll bring back his entire clan from the afterlife, which is tempting enough for Scorpion to try and hold back his burning rage for exactly 13 seconds, before Quan Chi reminds him, showing him the same beautiful cutscene of Sub-Zero killing his family. And before you know it, Sub-Zero is a crumpled skull on the floor. This is the first time you see a character die, and it's a cutaway. It's supposed to be suspenseful in a did he kill him, did he not kill him? But let's be honest, he ripped off his mask to reveal that it was just a flaming skull. I don't think he was going to put it back on and hug it out with Sub-Zero. So I'm not sure why they didn't just show what happened. It's not like Mortal Kombat has ever shied away from violence. Raiden is pretty disappointed with Scorpion, but I would be too, since he pretty much did the exact opposite thing Raiden asked him not to do. This brings an end to their friendship arc, so the game moves on to Cyrax. Cyrax is still human at this stage in the game, and it's kind of weird seeing a robot produce a giant saw blade from his rather small and human-shaped arm, but it's totally bananas to see a human do the same thing. Anyway, Cyrax is stuck in a clan where the Grand Master thinks that they should all become robots because, robots are better at martial arts. It's not the first time we've seen a cyborg ninja. It's like a Saturday morning cartoon idea. Cyrax thinks this is bullshit, which is rightfully so, because it's really unbelievably cruel and dumb. Imagine joining a clan and suddenly you've all got to get mullets because the Grand Master saw Big Trouble in Little China last night. Except this is more permanent, but probably less embarrassing. After Raiden has Cyrax doubting himself over his Grand Master's actions, there's a scuffle with Baraka and Shiva, the former of which saw him chatting with Raiden and figured that of course Cyrax is a filthy traitor and must be reduced to a fine paste. This goes very badly for them as Cyrax has just attained his godly powers of being the player character.
Cyrax wins.
I need to have a talk with your master.
This fight is not over.
You mean to finish me? You couldn't even stop the actor.
This is one of my favourite lines because as fearsome as Baraka looks with his shark teeth and Wolverine-esque blade arms, he is total fodder in this game and loses every single fight he's in because you never play as him. Cyrax toddles off to talk to Shang Tsung about his 2 guard dogs misbehaving. Shang Tsung retorts saying that Cyrax was seen talking to Raiden and confirms that all he has to go on is conjecture. Sector vouches for him, but Shang Tsung isn't really buying it and sets up Cyrax against Johnny Cage, who Cyrax is meant to kill. Unfortunately for Johnny Cage, he isn't the player character for this round and is defeated by Cyrax, who upon being told to finish Johnny Cage gets a firm headshake from Raiden. This does feel sort of like plot armor for Johnny Cage so that he can continue being in fights. In my opinion, it would have been more beneficial for Cyrax to just kill him and betray Sector and the Grandmaster later down the line, but now he's painted a huge target on his back in front of everyone. But hey, if we did kill Johnny Cage, the humour in the story would shrivel up with it. His actions turn Sector against him, who is just so disturbingly keen on being a robot that he probably watched Terminator 2 3 times before turning up to the tournament. They get into a slap up and Cyrax kicks him in the head in a cutscene which I just love for some reason.
No one leaves the lid clay.
Cyrax chapters feel like filler material, but there do be some chapters that are like that. Next we play as Liu Kang, who is by far my least favourite character to play as, and so of course we play as him the most. His chapter opens up with them observing Shang Tsung and Kano's new creation, Ermac, who puts on a light show for people who really love the colour green, whilst everyone stands around watching either immensely impressed or terrified. I think this part is hilarious because they wheel out Ermac like he's this terrifyingly powerful threat. Raiden looks at Liu Kang and says,
"Be wary, Liu Kang. He is unlike anything you have fought before."
And Liu Kang is like, "Oh my god, what the fuck?" Then he's called up to fight Ermac and promptly just beats the shit out of him and leaves his crumpled body on the floor.
Liu Kang wins.
Earthrealm will not fall into your master's hands.
Seeing his new toy broken once again upsets Shang Tsung, and he sends Kitana, who has neither psychic powers nor multiple spirits trapped inside her, to defeat Liu Kang, which is like following up Stone Cold Steve Austin with a Labrador puppy. And just like the puppy, Liu Kang finds it adorable, and as a show of affection, he beats the ever-loving shit out of her. There's supposed to be a hint of romance between these two, but sadly this is Mortal Kombat, so of course they just fucking kick the crap out of each other.
Liu Kang wins.
I am impressed.
Then the Power Trio arrive for the next round of the tournament and reveal that Liu Kang is the last fighter still in. It's kind of confusing how the rules work because they get Liu Kang to fight Scorpion and Quan Chi at the same time. I have to wonder if anyone has ever been disqualified for cheating? Because it seems like you can just pit anyone against anyone and then it's fine. Why not put all of Earthrealm's warriors up against each Outland warrior one after the other? Just 10 8-on-1 fights until they win. Anyway, back to the fight. There's not much to say about it besides that anytime you fight AI Quan Chi, all he does is say "Wule" and then stamp on your face. Which sums up his character perfectly. Of course, Liu Kang wins and he's on to a fight against Goro, who's like a mini-boss. He and Kentaro are never really that fun to fight and not that memorable either. Liu Kang returns victorious and challenges Shang Tsung, who despite all his fancy powers is really quite easy. He's essentially an overgrown dried raisin. After the fight, everyone pats each other on the back and waves goodbye, but then Raiden looks down at his mystical Fabergé egg and finds out it's still cracking. His work is somehow not done. Meanwhile, Shang Tsung's bruised raisin form is thrown before Shao Kahn, who is pretty unimpressed at the beatdown he received and laments that it sucks that a big bad intergalactic conqueror has to play by the rules. To avoid his own death at the hands of Reptile and Baraka, Shang Tsung poses a very valid question of, what rules? To which Shao Kahn decides to spare his life. At the celebration party of all the Earthrealm warriors who didn't seem to realise there were more chapters left in the story, Raiden is once again stuck with a bee in his straw bonnet over the fate of the future, since he can't figure out how he fucked up. This brings about Jax's chapter, and Jax is pretty fun to play as and has one of the most damaging X-ray moves in the game, which I only used whenever possible because goddamn 41% is a lot of damage. A strikingly youthful looking Shang Tsung returns to mock Raiden and offer him another tournament, which Raiden wipes his ass with. This prompts Shang Tsung to start an interplanetary war, which is what always happens when someone doesn't get what they want in Mortal Kombat. Jax jumps into fighting literally 200 Barakas, and that goes as well as you think, with Jax getting knocked out nearly immediately, and after waking up, he's invited by Raiden to do a raid on Shao Kahn's funhouse.
I now realize what we must do.
Anybody get the number of that? Wait, where's Sonya?
After turning up, they're nearly instantly accosted by Baraka. Jax without metal arms is just as good as Jax with his metal arms, but the satisfying clank noise is sadly missing, making punching Baraka in the face about as fun as Baraka must find flossing. He's more aggressive at this point, and any jump attack will almost certainly be met by a totally harmless series of metal stabs in the stomach. For some reason, Shang Tsung thinks this is still a tournament they agreed to be in, and is about to set Jax up with another opponent before Reptile comes over and cancels that. Raiden has a brief intrusive thought of Sonya in bondage before they teleport to a random dungeon because Raiden's internal satnav is malfunctioning. Most of Jax's story sections feel needless, and his fight with Johnny Cage is equally pointless. It's done to fill in some space, and while it's never not fun to fight Johnny Cage, the good guys fighting the good guys just makes both sides come across as brainless. After this altercation, there's another one in the acid pits as Raiden, Johnny Cage and Jax try and find their way out of the bowels of Shao Kahn's Netherrealm. There was an opportunity here to do something other than having characters fighting characters with these chubby dudes, but this is over really quickly and they're replaced by Shiva, who is honestly a breath of fresh air from fighting Baraka though. After they once again let Shiva live, they find Sonya in quite the pickle and free her. I'm assuming she got kidnapped in the brief war with Baraka's 200 identical twins. Jax picks her up like she's the last doll on the shelf, and then she finds some kind of signal on her Apple Watch.
Readings, heavy tech signals, both of them.
Technology. Then they cannot be of Outworld. We need to confront the source of each signal. We might discover the one whose victory I must ensure.
Wait, what about us? What are we, chopped liver? What?
Perhaps you are right, Johnny Cage. You will stay close to me.
Great,
Close as a shadow, and twice as silent.
This is a bit of a stretch on Raiden's part, but since he's still trying to figure out whose victory he's trying to ensure, since he must win, could be literally anyone, and he thinks it's possible that the signal emanating from somewhere in Outworld has a fairly good chance of being the one who must win. Not like a ham radio one of the Super Baraka brothers stole while raping and pillaging an Earthrealm. Right, well, that's the end of the first part, and wow, what a ridiculously long script this turned out to be. I don't know how many more of these there will be, but goddamn. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and let me know in the comments if you want a part 2. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the abrupt end.